Hello fellow Earthlings, it's Libs, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year Freakout tag. So I've semi-prepared for this video. I'm going to be doing a big wrap-up of my favourite books of the year so far in another video, but let's crack on into it. So question 1 is the best book you've read of the year so far. This is kind of a difficult one because while I have quite a few 5-star reads, I haven't necessarily found anything that I think is a standout favourite that I think I'll be talking about in the years to come. But I think if it was just based on a enjoyment book I would recommend, I think my favourite book of the year has been One Last Stop. This is surprisingly a romance novel that has been everywhere, so it's not my usual cup of tea, but I ended up loving it. It's about this young woman who moves to New York and she meets this girl on the subway who is trapped in time. She's from the 70s and she just is stuck on the subway, and it is their connection and romance and all the good things. I really loved this book. It was just very funny, very sweet. The friendships and everything were great. I loved this book. Question 2 is the best sequel I've read of the year so far. It's pretty much a tie between Avatar: The Last Airbender: The Search and Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. So we know I love Avatar. We know this is not a surprise, this isn't new information, but I finally decided to read all the graphic novels and I'm slowly making my way through them, and The Search is by far the best. It's about Zuko and Azula deciding it is time to find out what happened to their mother. It is fantastic, brilliant, chef's kiss, 5 stars. And then I don't know what I can say about The Titan's Curse without giving anything away if you haven't read the series. This is my first time reading it. I somehow missed out on the Percy Jackson craze when I was a kid, so I'm making up for it now. I'm loving it. It's a great time. I think the character development was super cool. I liked that I had no idea where the story was really going because I'd watched the terrible movies, so the first 2 books weren't particularly exciting for me, but now things are really ramping up and I'm loving it. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but are excited to read. I'm gonna say either Galatea by Madeleine Miller. I've already purchased this short story. I'm really excited to read it, but haven't got to it yet. And the other one that I'm probably the most excited to read would be, is it Cleopatra and Frankenstein or Frankenstein and Cleopatra? I don't actually know a thing about this book. I think it's just like a contemporary something set in New York. I don't know. I know nothing. I've just heard people say that they're really excited to read it, and then other people say it's really good but not spoiling it. So I'm really keen to jump on that bandwagon because, like everyone else, I'm obsessed with the cover, and that seems to be my driving force between the books I want to read at the moment. Question 4 is what release am I excited for that will be coming out in the second half of the year, and I have absolutely no idea what is coming out in the second half of the year. There might be a new Taylor Jenkins Reid book coming out at the end of the year. I can't remember when the release date was. That might be this year. So, I mean, I want to read it because it's Taylor Jenkins Reid, but I'm not necessarily as excited about this particular story that she's writing. But, I mean, I'll probably still read it. I'll probably still really enjoy it because I've enjoyed every Taylor Jenkins Reid book that I have read so far. So I'll definitely be willing to give it a shot if it seems like my thing. I don't know. I will read it. I know I will read it. Okay, question 5 is biggest disappointment of the year so far. And that... Ooh. I've got 2. First is The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. I really didn't like this book. I thought it was far too long, really boring. The dialogue made no sense. The characters were stupid. I just, it wasn't for me. I think it's a disappointment because I read Clara and the Sun last year and loved it. It was one of my favourite books, and I had high hopes for everything by Kazuo Ishiguro, and I really shouldn't have bothered with this one. It wasn't for me, and I knew that. Everyone says it's their least favourite of his books, or one of the least favourites, so I should have known not to pick it up, but I know it said historical fiction and I thought that would be for me, but it wasn't. It really wasn't. And then the other biggest disappointment would be Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. And this one is mainly because I thought this was going to be a 5-star read. I had it in my 5-star read predictions video. I thought it was going to be amazing and that I was going to love it and that it would be like Circe. And it just feels like a really bad knockoff version of Circe. It's the Audi version of Circe, or the Kmart version of Circe. It's not as good. I don't like it. I don't even know anymore. I've tried to block it from my memory because I really didn't like it. And I'd heard other people saying they didn't like it, and I thought their critiques were harsh. They weren't harsh, they were dead on. It's just, I'm still open to the idea of reading Electra. I'm hoping I can borrow it from the library or something, because I don't want to pay for it. Because even though the cover's beautiful, I don't want to own it if it's not gonna be good. I know Ariadne just follows the story of Ariadne and then also her sister, but it jumps back and forth a lot, and there's just no... I get what it was trying to do, I just don't think it did it well. Okay, question 6 is biggest surprise. I have 2 books, of course, for this answer. The first is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which I gave 5 stars to, which shocked me. This is a thriller murder mystery about this group of friends who are going back to their college reunion, and one of their friends was murdered towards the end of their college experience, and someone was kind of blamed for the murder, but it looks like it probably wasn't them. So now they're all trying to figure out who the real killer was. And this, I didn't think this book would be for me, mainly just because I'm not typically into thrillers and crime books that much, but I think I'm going to have to give them a bit more of a go because I love this one so much. It's definitely over the top and a little bit ridiculous, but if you were into Pretty Little Lies back in the day, you're probably going to really enjoy this, because I think it did a very good job at actually wrapping the story up in a way that was satisfying and made sense. So yeah, if you like Pretty Little Liars but you think it went off the rails and you weren't happy with it, read this book instead. This book is great. And the other big surprise was The Wolf Den, which is a book I picked up on a whim and loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's about this group of slave women in Pompeii who are forced to work at this brothel, and it's about one of them trying to figure out a way to change her circumstances. And it's very dark. There's probably like a lot of trigger warnings for this book, but I loved it. I just think the author did such a great job at exploring all the characters' motivations, looking at treating everyone like differently, expanding everyone's stories. It just was so good. And was the kind of book that I think I was looking for from something like Ariadne. I found it more in this. Question 5 is a new favourite author. I haven't really read a lot of books by the same person this year, but I think the author I'm the most excited to continue reading from would probably be Bell Hooks, who writes some fantastic feminist theory. I read Feminism is for Everyone a month or two ago and absolutely loved it, and so I've got pretty much all of her books on my wish list, so I'll be getting around to them fairly soon. 8 is newest fictional crush. I'm just going to say the entire group of friends from One Last Stop, because I just desperately want to be friends with these people and be a part of their group because they are adorable. 9 is newest favourite character. I don't know why that confused me. Is newest favourite character, and that would have to be Patroclus from The Song of Achilles. That should not surprise anyone. I think everyone who's read The Song of Achilles is a little bit obsessed with Patroclus. I had a great time reading that book. Made me feel things I wasn't prepared to feel. Question 10 is a book that made you cry. I didn't cry in any of these books, but I guess The Song of Achilles was the saddest, most emotional book I've read so far this year, so I'll go with that. Question 11 is a book that made you happy, and that would definitely be As You Wish, which was written by the guy who played Wesley in The Princess Bride, and this book just kind of tells you stories from behind the scenes and experiences everyone had making this film. I'd recommend the audiobook because most of the actors and behind the scenes people read their parts in the book, which is fantastic, and it's just a great time. If you love the film, you're going to love this book. Question 12 is the most beautiful book you've purchased this year, and that is definitely Portrait of an Unknown Lady. This is gorgeous. I picked this up in Noosa. I knew nothing about it, still know nothing about it, but I couldn't not buy it because it's so beautiful, and it just seems like my kind of book from the very brief bit I read on the back, but I'm gonna surprise myself with this at a later date. And the final question is books I want to read by the end of the year. I have so many, so many.
2 hours later.
I would like to read The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, A Secret History. I want to give Kazuo Ishiguro another go, so thinking I'll read Remains of the Day. And there's this French book, I think it's At Night All Blood is Black, that I'm really, really keen to get around to, so I'll hopefully be reading that really soon. And basically all the books I mentioned in my 5-star reading predictions video, because I really do want to read those by the end of the year. So I've got like The Mercies and The Devotion, I think it's called, which I'm hopefully getting soon from the library. And yeah, let me know what your favourite books of the year have been so far down below, and I will see you next time. Bye.